Hello and welcome to episode 4 of my Working with Work series. And in this episode, I want to talk to you about something called the external brain. Now, what is the external brain? Well, the first thing I should explain is our internal brain is obviously the brain that's inside our heads. And this is the place that we would generate our ideas, generate creative solutions to existing problems, and also it's where we make decisions about the kind of task, something that needs to be done. Now, the external brain could be something as simple as a notebook. Equally, it could be, in my case, it could be something like Evernote or Todoist, two items that, as I mentioned last week, that I use on a regular basis. And anyone who follows this channel, of course, you know that Todoist and Evernote are my go-to productivity tools. But the external brain could be anything. It could be a paper notebook, if that's what you like, or it could be something digital like OneNote or Evernote, or just the simple notes application on the mobile phone that you use on a regular basis. Now, that's all the simple part. But the difficult part, and this is the part that most people end up falling down with, is trusting that system. Now, what does it really mean about trusting that system? What it basically means is that wherever you write down your idea or your task or whatever it is that you're trying to remember, wherever you write it down, you need to be able to trust that you will see that reminder, note, idea or commitment sometime within the next 24 hours. Now, that's where most people fall down. They write notes down on scraps of paper, different notebooks. Maybe they're in a training session and they write on the notebook of the handout that you get. You could be in a presentation, you could be in a meeting, and you just write things down on a scrap of paper. Or if you're a digital person, you just randomly type it into Microsoft Word or Apple Notes or whatever you're using. And the problem is that when you have your notes all over the place, unless you are collecting them in one central place, and for those you GTDers out there, that would mean your in-basket, then you're not going to trust this method of capturing your notes. So what's going to happen then is your internal brain is going to start trying to remember everything that you had committed to do. Now, that's where you start getting the problems. When your internal brain, this part, is trying to remember all the things that you are meant to do, all the commitments you've made, all the promises you've made, all the brilliant ideas that you had on the bus when you went into work this morning. That's when you start having problems, because once your brain starts trying to remember things like that, it doesn't have as much space to think of wonderful creative ideas. Now, another really good example of this is, imagine you've just had a really big fight with your best friend or your wife or your husband or your girlfriend or boyfriend. You know the situation. You've just had a big fight. The problem that we have is when the fight's over and we've gone our separate ways, we're going to work or you're driving home, your brain is thinking about all the reasons why you are right and they are wrong. It's just true. That's what we do. We're humans. We try to justify our position. Even when we're not with that person, we're justifying that position. Now, also remember, if you just set off that evening or that morning and you realize, I must buy some milk on the way home, I can guarantee that you are not going to remember to buy that milk, because your brain is now fully consumed with that argument that you've just had with your friend or your wife or your spouse. Because your brain doesn't have as much capacity as we think it does. Well, it certainly doesn't have as much capacity to focus on one or two things as we like to think it does. So we can really only focus on one thing at a time. And if we're focusing on that argument we've just had, we're not going to focus on the things that we need to pick up from the grocery store when we get home. So what you need to do is to get into the habit of anything that can be put into your external brain, then that's what you need to do. Start getting into the habit of writing everything down in one central place. Now, one of the famous parts of David Allen's presentations, and you can go online and you can watch any of these, is David Allen loves to talk about his note-taker wallet. Now, for me, the note-taker wallet is a little bit old-fashioned. For me personally, because I'm very, very digital. But I completely understand why David Allen uses the note-taker wallet, because his wallet, is always with him. He carries it with him everywhere he goes, whether he goes to the shops, whether he goes on a business trip, or whether he goes to the office. His wallet is always with him. He has a pen inside the wallet and he writes everything down. One of the things that for you guys, if you're a digital person, the chances are your phone goes with you everywhere you go. So what I would strongly recommend is you get into the habit of using one application. If you remember last week when I talked about the right tools, choose one application to capture your ideas, one application to capture your tasks. Or if you're not sure, as I sometimes am not sure whether it's an idea or a task, just put it into one of them. As long as you know that you trust yourself to look at that list or that note within the next 24 hours and then make a decision about what needs to happen next. And this is what it means about your internal brain and your external brain. The internal brain is for having ideas and coming up with creative solutions and being able to think through problems that you may have at work or in your personal life or wherever. But once you've got those ideas, they need to be shifted out of your head and put into your external brain, i.e. a notebook, an application, or something else. But they need to go into one trusted place that you know you're going to look at within the next 24 hours. And basically, that's what the external brain is for. The same thing. I use an iPhone and I don't use Apple reminders for my daily tasks, but I do have a shared reminders list with my wife for shopping. Now, when I'm cooking my dinner or when I'm making coffee in the morning, if I run out of something or I get low on something like milk or sugar or something like that, I will immediately put it into that shopping list. Now, I know that one of us, either my wife or myself, next time we walk past the supermarket, which actually we're quite lucky, it's not quite far away from our home, we will pick up the milk or we'll pick up the sugar because we just tick it off once it's done and it disappears from the list. That's just one really simple example. I am not going to trust my brain to remember to pick up the milk on the way home. It's just not going to happen. So many things could happen during the day that I'm just not going to be thinking about my shopping when I'm on my way home. So I'm going to put that into a place that I trust that I will look at when I walk past the supermarket. Okay, that's really all I wanted to say about the external brain. But the thing that you need to remember is your brain is for having creative ideas, for planning and that sort of thing. But once you've come up with your creative idea, once you've come up with your plan, that's the time to shift it out of your brain, internal brain, and move it into your external brain. Just take 2 or 3 minutes, type it out, write it out, whatever, but make sure it goes into a trusted place and that you know that you're going to look at it and process it and decide what you want to do next with it within the next 24 hours. Okay, thanks very much for watching this episode of Working with Work. Please guys, don't forget to help me out and buy a copy of my book, which is now available, as you all know, if you've been watching this series, on Amazon, iBookstore, and also you can buy it directly from my website. I put the links below so that you can see. Please buy yourself a copy, learn how to get really organized and productive using this wonderful tool, Todoist, and I'm sure you will not be disappointed. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. I wish you all a very, very productive week.